There is no doubt that the prologue is very important. If your question paper setter is a rather lazy guy like me, he's quite likely to focus intensely on the prologue and the opening cantos of In Memoriam A.H.H. This is something I frequently tell my students. For example, while preparing a Shakespeare play, if you prepare the first two acts of the play thoroughly, you're quite likely to meet with sufficient number of familiar annotation passages in your question paper which would help you sail through the examination. In general, question paper setters have a rather imbalanced approach towards the prescribed works, and they frequently tend to be partial towards the opening and the closing parts of each work. At least some of them tend to be so. So I would advise you to prepare the prologue quite thoroughly. The prologue of In Memoriam A.H.H. invites comparison and also contrast with an even more famous prologue, the prologue to the Canterbury Tales, which is usually referred to as the general prologue. I think the prologue to the Canterbury Tales is the most famous prologue in all English literature. Let us return to the prologue in front of us. Let us take a close look at the four words with which the prologue, with which In Memoriam A.H.H. opens. Strong Son of God. Strong Son of God. Thus the prologue and thus the work opens with a reference to Jesus. To Jesus Christ, who is the Son of God and also God the Son. This emphasizes the role of religion, the role of the Christian religion in Victorian life, in Victorian society. Of course, religion was under challenge. There was conflict between science and religion. There was conflict between knowledge and faith. There was conflict between the intellect and the soul. But the fact remains that religion was a force to be reckoned with in Victorian England. And it is this fact which is highlighted by the four opening words of the prologue of the work. Strong Son of God. The reference is not to God in a very general manner, but to God in a very specific manner. It's a Christian God. Not just a Christian God. It is the Son of God who is also, of course, God the Son. Look at the last two words of the first line. Immortal love. Again, this is one of the cardinal principles of Christian theology. that God possesses infinite love. Both God the Father and God the Son. God so loved the world that he sent his one and only Son to the world to save it. And God the Son so loved humanity that he was prepared to sacrifice himself on the cross to make amends for the original sin. The poet says that we have not seen God, we cannot see God. We can reach God only through faith. God is the creator of the world, and everything we see in this world, including the sun, including the moon, and everything we experience in this world, including death. Man believes that he was not made merely for death. For what was man made, man does not know, but certainly not for death alone. There is a coincidentality between the human and the divine in God, especially in God the Son. The Bible repeatedly refers to, the New Testament repeatedly refers to Jesus as the Son of God. But it also refers to Jesus as the Son of Man. We try to understand the mystery of existence, the mystery of the universe, using our theoretical frameworks, using our petty theoretical frameworks. And we, perhaps to some extent, are able to comprehend what we see and what we experience using these small theoretical frameworks. But the fact is that these theoretical frameworks are simply incapable of analyzing, comprehending, and explaining the totality of the mystery of the universe, the totality of the mystery of existence. Our little systems have their day. Our little systems have their day. God is beyond the grasp of all the systems that we manufacture in our desperate attempt to analyze, understand, and explain the divine. It is true that we can reach God through faith. It is also true that knowledge comes from God. There has to be a spark of the divine in every bit of knowledge. The poet says that knowledge and faith, mind and soul, need not be contradictory to each other, need not be in conflict with each other. We can attempt to amalgamate the two, knowledge and faith, intellect and intuition, mind and soul. You must remember that Victorian society was a fertile ground for the flourishing of atheism, though perhaps the number of atheists in Victorian society was never really significant. There was atheism, and the poet is compelled to allude to the rise of atheism in Victorian society. He calls them fools. We are fools and slight. We mock thee when we do not fear. We are fools and slight. We mock thee when we do not fear. I think that there is an echo of some of the most powerful passages in the Holy Bible, in the New Testament here. Because the New Testament, the Holy Bible, does not mince words when it comes to dealing with those who deny the existence of God. I am reminded of Psalm 14. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. In the last three stanzas of the prologue, the poet seeks forgiveness. Again, this is a typically Christian attitude. Man is expected to be humble. Man is expected to stand with bowed head before the Almighty. Man is expected to kneel before the Almighty. Man is always expected to seek forgiveness, even when there is nothing to be forgiven. Here the poet seeks forgiveness for writing the poem, for his relationship with the central character in the poem. He seeks forgiveness if the lines of the poem fail to capture truth. In fact, he, with great humility, with great modesty, belittles his own work and calls it confusions of a wasted youth. Confusions of a wasted youth. Thus the poet adopts a characteristically Christian approach, a characteristically Christian attitude towards the Almighty, towards God. Why should Tennyson seek forgiveness for his friendship with Hallam? Let us read the penultimate stanza of the prologue. Forgive my grief for one removed, thy creature whom I found so fair. I trust he lives in thee, and there I find him worthier to be loved. Let me repeat the question. Why should Tennyson seek forgiveness for his relationship with Hallam? I think that there is a homoerotic element in the relationship between speaker and subject, between poet and protagonist, between Tennyson and Hallam. And you must remember that in Memoriam A.H.H was produced by a society or in a society which was fiercely homophobic. It was a society which had which sent it was a society which sent Oscar Wilde to jail for homosexuality. His Oscar Wilde's homosexual relationship with Lord Alfred Douglas resulted in Wilde having to suffer imprisonment. And homosexual love was, to quote from Lord Alfred Douglas, the love that dare not speak its name. The love that dare not speak its name. Please don't say that I'm overreading, overinterpreting. I shall be speaking in some detail and the homoerotic element in Memoriam A.H.H at a later point. What I would like to say now is that in the penultimate stanza of the prologue, the poet identifies the inspirational trigger of the work, and that is his relationship with Hallam. I think it would not be an exaggeration to claim that the prologue is a microcosm of the work, and that the work is a microcosm of Victorian England. Everything of importance in Victorian civilization, in Victorian culture, is found in Memoriam A.H.H, and everything of importance in Memoriam A.H.H is found in the prologue. You have God, you have God the Son, who is also the Son of God, or rather the Son of God, who is also God the Son. You have Christianity, you have nature, for the opening line of the second stanza refers to the sun and the moon, these orbs of light and shade. You have philosophy, you have theology, you have political science, for the line our little systems have their day could very well refer to political systems. And you must not forget that Victorian England was an age of remarkable political evolution propelled by the Reform Acts. You have faith, you have religion, you have knowledge, you have science, you have friendship, you have love, you have literature, you have poetry. Finally, I would like to observe that the prologue was one of the last things, one of the very last things that Tennyson wrote, which became part of In Memoriam A.H.H. And that this fact is quite visible in the prologue. You do not find in the prologue the piercing pain that one meets with in the cantos written immediately after the death of Hallam. Instead, you come across in the prologue a rather mature, a rather sober, a rather balanced, a rather philosophical worldview. The prologue is one of the best written parts of the book, one of the most finished, one of the most polished areas of In Memoriam A.H.H. It demonstrates that Tennyson is an extraordinarily accomplished craftsman. It showcases Tennyson's remarkable versification gifts. I shall be speaking in some detail about the technical aspects of In Memoriam A.H.H. later, but for now I would like to point out that from the technical perspective, the prologue is one of the most accomplished, one of the most finished, one of the most polished areas of In Memoriam A.H.H.